How's it going, everybody? Thank you for checking out my channels. Make sure to subscribe to my Switch 209 and Switch 209 gaming channel so that way you stay up to date on when my new Diablo 2 Resurrected content is going to come out. And welcome to today's video. If any of you guys are new to my channel, welcome to the channel. I hope you guys will enjoy the content. But if any of you guys have been following me for the last couple of months, you guys know that I like to do out of the box, out of the ordinary type of stuff, especially when it comes to Uber content. And I recently put the Summon Necro to the test by having him use only one piece of gear, and it was simply just for repositioning. But I had him show that he could be the absolute most budget build when it comes to doing Ubers with, again, only one piece of gear, not even using a torch, not using an Annie, nothing at all to be able to actually get through the Uber process to collect the torch. And with how draining that project was and how much time I spent on doing it, I wanted to kind of come back down to reality and try an actual run with something that is a lot more realistic to play, which is what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to go over the build guide for a Summon Necromancer, a realistic one. Granted, it is a endgame build with a lot of really sought after items, which I'll go over in a little bit, but we're going to go over the attributes, skill tree, the gear when it comes to my character, as well as the mercenary, and then give you guys a full run to see how it actually works when it comes to getting the organs, going into TRISTRAM, and collecting the torch. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and do the comment shout out for this video, and today's is going to be Thrime865. This person is awesome. I'm at a loss for words when it comes to reading the comments, because the way that he tells the story when it comes to the items he's looking for, the things that he's found, the way that he just goes about the events that led to the actual find that he was looking for, the fact that he manifested so many different things. He manifested griffins, of all things. He just spoke into existence and was able to find it. And it started with this initial comment on my rolling death reward in an Berserker Axe video. I don't even want to start reading it. I want you guys to go ahead and do it, because again, if you're into a really good story, something that is well thought out and is making you go along for the ride of his journey to be able to get what he's looking for, go check it out. I really do recommend it. You guys are not gonna be disappointed. But with all that said, let's get into the video. We're going to start off with the attributes, and it is pretty much just a typical type of build. It's nothing out of the ordinary. I have enough strength to be able to equip the gear, with the rest of it going into vitality, so that way we can actually have a good boost to our health, especially later on when we use battle orders from CTA, which I'll go over again in a little bit when it comes to the gear. But anything to be able to help boost our health, especially when it comes to fighting Lilith and Mephisto, is going to be really beneficial for this build. For the skill tree, it's pretty straightforward. I'm only using two of the skill trees. The first one's going to be for the summoning skill tree, which I put the max points into the skeleton mastery, raise skeleton, summon resist, and revives. And we need to get specific revives for this video, which I'll go over in a little bit. And the raise skeletons are going to be really tanky to be able to help be a barrier between my revives and my mercenary, to be able to take a lot of the damage, especially when it comes to the AoE damage, and to be a good source of crowd control. And the two synergies are for Summon Resist and for the Skeleton Mastery, to make them more of a tank, to be able to, again, take a lot more of the hits for my Mercenary, who's going to be doing a lot of the work when it comes to helping knock down the health of the Ubers, and to be able to help them from regenerating their health. For the Poison and Bone skill tree, it's really straightforward. I have nothing into that skill tree at all. I don't have any points into Bone Armor to be able to synergize from Bone Prison to be able to take some of the damage, because I wanted to put a lot of the hard points I would have, I believe it's 7. I wanted to more capitalize that on the Curses skill tree to benefit from the curses I'm going to be using. Moving on to the Curses skill tree, I do have 1 point initially into amplified damage, leading all the way up to decrepify, with the remaining points into amplified damage. Now, hear me out.
Look here! Look, listen!
The reason I did this instead of actually putting points into decrepify is decrepify is only going to increase the length. It's not going to actually increase the radius. It's not going to increase how much they're slowed, which you would usually use a clay golem and then have the Ubers attack them and then decrepify them to make them go as painfully slow as possible. But the main thing with this is I'm trying to play more to how Coooley went about getting the ideal weapon for taking on the Ubers, which was a 6-socket phase blade with 4 burr and 2 shale, to be able to sacrifice the idea of survivability for more damage.
To sum it up, he suggested that we throw safety out the window with our smiter build in favor of a very high-risk, high-damage setup. Where did you see how fast we just smashed Meph with that amp damage? He suggested doing this by using the amplify damage curse instead of life tap. which means that we would do considerably more damage, but we would give up our lifeline against these high-level endgame bosses. Dangerous, to say the least.
That is where I actually came up with the idea for this, to be able to put all the points remaining into amplify damage, because I want to be able to increase the radius as well as the length for which we can actually curse everyone around us. When it comes to doing an uber run like this, it is important to take into consideration that most people are going to agree that decrepify is great for bosses, especially act bosses or even ubers, and amplify damage is great for large groups of enemies, because to be able to decrepify large groups of enemies is only going to slow you down in the process of actually killing them. But when it comes to being an uber TRISTRAM, take into consideration that you're going to be swarmed by minions constantly. And I, again, wanted to take the idea of just do as much damage as fast as possible and not worry about slowing down the actual ubers, because they still are going to be doing damage. It's not going to be quite as fast. I did not capitalize on using Clay Golem at all for this run. I didn't want to go that route just because it would be a lot more tedious. I wanted to get this done as fast as possible. So I went the idea of how Skulm with his 2 minute 17 second speed run through the ubers with his summon Necromancer, using amplify damage over decrepify, because yes, slowing down the ubers is helpful and more safe, but maximizing the damage output potentially ends the run faster, as amplify damage does 100% enhanced damage, while decrepify only does 50%. For stats in the gear, if any of you guys want to check out the specifics on them, pause the video anytime that you need to, because I'm going to be going over the gear a little bit quicker than usual, which, as you will see, is not going to be budget by any means necessary. This is all endgame gear that you'd have to spend hours and hours to be able to farm for the high runes to be able to get some of the items. If any of you guys need help with that, there's going to be a card in the corner up above for you guys to go check out, which will help put the odds a little bit more in your favor to be able to find the high runes that you desire. Now, if any of you guys want a budget character, let me know in the comment section below, and I will do my best to be able to get that out to you as soon as possible. Starting from the top, we have an Shaco to be able to help with resistances, plus the skills, plus the life, and all the other beneficial stats that are on Shaco. For the amulet, we have a Perfect Maras for the resistances, the little bit boost to attributes, and the plus to skills. The body armor is going to be Enigma to be able to help with tele-stomping certain particular ubers, especially when it comes to Duriel, who is a huge pain in my ass. And for some reason, he was a little bit harder to kill in this run, comparatively speaking to only using a teleport amulet on the one item Summon Necro going through ubers. No idea why. As you can see from the very beginning with Duriel right in front of them, the revives and the mercenary decide to go anywhere else except to actually kill Duriel.
They are so dumb.
And for the weapon, we're using Beast to capitalize on the Fanaticism aura to be able to give to my skeletons, my revives, and my mercenary to be able to do a little bit more damage and to attack a little bit faster. The shield is a Spirit Shield, and the belt is Arachnid's Mesh for the plus of skills and FCR. And one of the two rings is an FCR ring, the other one is Stone of Jordan. The gloves are Train's gloves for the plus to curses and to be able to help with FCR. The boots are Marowak boots. They're a great boot to be able to help with a summon Necromancer. Switch is going to be a CTA, and pairing that with the Spirit to be able to help boost our health of our Necromancer, the skeletons, revives, and the mercenary with battle orders. And the inventory is going to be 2 tomes, the Tome of Identifications, the Tome of Town Portal, the Cube, my perfect Torch, and Annie, and the rest of it are going to be summoning skillers with 1 curse skiller, and the remainder are going to be plus to life skillers with 1 random 7 magic find with a little bit of lightning resistance. For the mercenary's gear, he is the exact same as it was when it came to the one item going through ubers for the summon necromancer. He has a G-Face that's socketed with an IAS jewel to be able to help attack a little bit faster and to capitalize on all the amazing stats that come on G-Face. And the body armor is going to be Duress, because he's going to be the main source of open wounds to be able to help the ubers from regenerating their health fast or even at all, and all the other beneficial stats that again come on Duress. The weapon is Obedience to be able to capitalize on, again, all the amazing stats that come on it, especially when it comes to the Crushing Blow, the booster resistances, but especially when it comes to the enchant proc to be able to help his attack rating increase even more, which is, again, for a melee character, really important to be able to have as high of attack rating as possible to be able to get off as many hits as they can, because he is, again, the sole source of open wounds, and it only lasts for about 8 seconds, so the more he's able to hit, the more chances that open wounds proc, so that way the ubers do not regenerate their health fast or even at all. Now, the revives that you need to be able to make this successful are going to be any version of Erdars, Maulers, Gorebellies, or Blunderbores, as their attacks not only have Crushing Blow, but they're able to stun. And there's a couple of really easy places outside of waypoints to be able to make this easy for you to start collecting them and to be able to have the times of them being revived to their death, whether it be from timing or just actually being killed by the ubers, be as much as possible, so that way you get the most use out of them. When it comes to the blunderboars, you can find them outside the Frigid Highlands up north of the waypoint. You could also find them in the Palace Cellar level 1 and 2. As far as the Maulers, you can find them in the Endurance of Hate level 1 and 2. You can find them most of the time right outside the waypoint. And for the Urdars, I used the entire River of Flame to be able to try to collect them. As far as the scouting for this, I went through and wanted to go explore the River of Flame first, and I went through the City of the Damned waypoint and then went down to the real entrance, because using the River of Flame waypoint and then working my way back, I did have some choke points with some bridges right outside of the waypoint, which made it to where my timing, other revives that I wanted, was going to start to dwindle down a little bit too far for my liking, and I'd have to sacrifice them for hopefully getting something better down the line, as well as it made it to where traveling across the bridges and even using terror to be able to get things to scatter away was not effective enough. So I wanted to be able to have as open of an area as possible, which is why I decided to start at the actual entrance to the River of Flame, because it gave me more area for me to walk around, as well as my mercenary to be able to get around anything that was undesirable and to be able to kill the revives that I really need. The maps that I couldn't have, and unfortunately had to use the save and exit to be able to try to roll for better monsters, were ones that had the maggots or the grotesque, because they would be able to have the little worms. As far as the baby maggots or whatever they're called, I really don't care. But when they spawned, it made it to where reviving the actual revive that I wanted was a lot more of a pain and more of a process, because you typically would have to go through more of the actual maggots or the grotesque worms to be able to get the revive that you desire. So it made it to where it was just more of a burden than it was worth, and I'd have to unfortunately save and exit to be able to roll a better map with better monsters to be able to make this work. Something else that I actually overlooked, and it was really nice to be able to have, were stranglers. And the reason for that is, when it came to reviving them, they could actually move a lot more freely than any of the other monsters could, and they ended up being pretty good crowd control as far as some of the minions that spawned farther away from the Ubers. And it made it to where I could have the actual main revives that I really wanted focus, while some of the stranglers I only revived maybe about 4 to 6 at most if I could. And they really did help when it came to crowd control, staying far away, so that way any of the summoned minions will be able to focus on them, and I could focus on just the task at hand with the main revives and my mercenary. An alternate choice for your revives, in case you can't find any Urdars in abundance that you'd be able to need, or you unfortunately just burn right through them, are going to be the versions of the Thorned Hulk or the Thrashers, because their attacks are going to be very similar to Frenzy. Now you can find these mostly in Act 3, such as just outside the Lower Kurost, in the Kurost Causeway, as well as Upper Kurost. You can get really lucky finding them south of the Frigid Highland waypoint, with more of an abundance of them being closer to Shank. That pretty much wraps up everything that you need to know leading up to the actual run, where I'm not going to add any commentary. I'm not going to have my green screen go over the gameplay, so you guys can see how well this build actually does when it comes to doing the full run, from getting the organs from the minis, going into Uber TRISTRAM to be able to collect the torch. Full disclaimer, I want to make sure that you guys know ahead of time that I am not an amazing Summon Necromancer player, so if any of you guys that are watching that are actually really good Summon Necromancer players see that I make mistakes, please let me know down in the comment section below what I was doing wrong or anything that you feel I should tweak when it comes to this build. With that said, hope you guys enjoy the run.
Good afternoon. What do you need?
My brothers have escaped you. My brothers will not have died in vain.
And that's it. That wraps up the run for the Summon Necromancer, going through the entire process of collecting the organs from the minis, going into Über TRISTRAM to be able to collect the torch. Unfortunately, the torch did not roll anything good for any one of my characters to be able to use. However, just to be able to go collect the torch is a lot of fun. And hopefully you guys will go ahead and try out this build for yourselves if you haven't done so already, because it is a really fun build. It is a little bit tedious when it comes to going and actually collecting the revives, but as long as you're able to be in and out and back to the actual fights when it comes to the minis and main Ubers, it again is a lot of fun. If you like this kind of content, want to see more, hit the subscribe button on both my Switch 209 and Switch 209 gaming channels, so that way you stay up to date when my new Diablo 2 Resurrected content is going to come out. And if you enjoyed this video, please let me know by leaving a like. It's really appreciated to be able to help the channels to grow, to be able to get these videos out to as many people as possible within the algorithm. Other than that, hope you're all staying safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.